I'm Moraz, Director of Commercial of NumberEight, and I will be moderating this panel with my lovely assistant here, who's trying to leave the stage, so we'll see how long she's going to stay around. Ilya, how about you take it?
1, 2. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ilya. I represent Unity's Monetize team as a client partner, where I'm managing relationships with our partners in Nordic Europe and some of our Eastern European partners as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paul West, founder of Fumb Games. My background is ad tech from Ad Colony, App on Board, Ad Mix, so playable video, ad networks, and beyond. So nice to meet everyone. And our biggest game at the moment is a game called Bitcoin Miner, which is a Web3 game. So if anyone has any questions on that, don't ask me.
It does not mine Bitcoin, just mind you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Saurav. I run product marketing for InMobi Exchange and Mison. This is my 10th year in the company, and so I am an ad tech veteran as well as an InMobi veteran in that full-fledged overlap. And looking forward to this awesome panel.
Cool. So my name is Gonçalo. I'm head of marketing at BoomBit. We are a mobile game publisher. We publish several types of genres, but the main ones being upper casual, bit of mid-core, a bit everywhere. So yeah, let's start this.
It's good to diversify, right?
Exactly, especially nowadays.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonas, Managing Director at AdJoe. We are part of a bigger conglomerate called App-like Group. We own different gaming studios, tech and edtech company. AdJoe has grown quite massively by a rewarded ad unit called Playtime. Happy to share more what that is. And we are quite interested, excited and bold about in-house mediation, where we can also share a bit more. And maybe I wanted to use 10 seconds of airtime, maybe 20 seconds if you give that to me. When we all entered this morning, I got this second paper next to the program in my hand, and I really wanted to say I really had goosebumps on my skin and wanted to just share we are all with you, John, and your family. If you didn't read it yet, please do it, because I think there's only 2 reasons to not donate. Either you don't have the money or you don't agree with the cause, but I think we all agree with the cause here. So let's do it maybe as a thank you for John for hosting this amazing.
It's fine.
Okay.
Clapping is fine. Vora, chill. Sorry. Arigato. Completely agree. And it was such a lovely thing to take a moment there. It just also had goosebumps. It's really, I don't know where you are, John, somewhere here, but we do, it is something that it was very valuable to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of switching to a very different topic, which I apologize for a really abrupt segue, but this is the list, this is the questions we agree on, so I don't know what to say. I'm going to start, and you guys will answer in whatever order. Feel free to also ask each other questions. This is a free forum. But let's start with a question that probably has been asked, and we talked about it earlier today, but we've seen quite a lot of changes recently, whether it's privacy changes, the economic crisis on the horizon, kind of the beginning of the change, other changes by the platforms that are introducing, whether good or bad, that can be debatable, but what is the impact that you're expecting, or what are the impact you're already seeing?
I mean, I can start, yes. So, I mean, we were all working in the mobile game industry, which kind of normally it's an industry that is somehow edged whenever there is the crisis, even if it's economic crisis. When there was the COVID crisis, I think the mobile game publishers, they kind of even had more users. There was more activity, but it's slightly different than the economic crisis because, of course, during the COVID times, the people were stuck at home. They wanted something to do, so the daily active users actually increased. But at the same time, I think during, for example, if we're thinking about a recession that is coming, once again, I think our industry is a bit edged versus a lot of other industries. So I like to think positively. Of course, when we are talking about an actual economic crisis, then in terms of CPMs, in terms of marketing budgets within the industry, it's normal that it will go down a little bit. But at the same time, if people don't have that much economic effort to go out, to travel, they will still find some entertainment within mobile gaming. If we're talking mainly about the free-to-play games. But yeah, of course, IAPs, in my opinion, I think that IAPs will decrease a little bit. Overall marketing budgets will also decrease a little bit. But I think we all here are very fortunate to work in an industry that somehow is edged against this type of economic effects.
And maybe on the big trends, I really like what Shalom, from our friend from Digital Turbine, showed earlier. The advertising spend will increase by factor 3. I think the expectation was in the next 5 years, and there are right now 3 billion mobile gamers, I think. And this will not increase by factor 3, right? Because then we would exceed the world population. So what we see right now is rather short term. It's a post-COVID and maybe a recession inflation-driven effect. In the long term, I'm not worried at all about the industry, the app and the mobile games market. Public companies have a lot of pressure right now. They cannot hold up for short-term expectations. That's why the stocks dropped by 80%. In the long term, I think there's nothing we need to worry about if we have long-term viable strategies.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are facing headwinds and we will keep on facing headwinds down the line. I mean, this is not the first time we are going through this situation. But I think collectively the industry needs to keep on doing more than what it is doing right now to keep on, constantly innovating and doing more for the ecosystem. It is like not just for the publishers and the advertisers, but also for the users in the end.
Yeah, I think we're quite a positive panel. But I agree, it's like the industry set itself up. I'm talking from a game publisher perspective, like set ourselves up quite well to be so frictionless and so almost routine in users' lives. Obviously, we're not as important as food and shelter, but it is a very digestible, easy form of content that provides value. So I think the industry's done very well to get in that position.
Definitely. We don't expect people to stop playing, maybe play more.
Eventually.
Yeah, games, as any kind of other form of entertainment, have always been a form of escape.
Yeah.
People like escapism. But if we talk about the specific parts of this recession or crisis, there's a couple points here. One, when things are good, people are enjoying the ride and not really focusing on improving or fixing things. Like, don't touch it until it works, while it works. But when things are going down, people are, companies, businesses are trying to optimize things, are more focused on effectiveness. And I think what we will see now is developers exploring new ways of monetizing their games, fixing, the unit economics, but at the same time, so this will, I believe this will drive some new exploration or new innovation in how to monetize audiences, because we will expect less IAPs because of consumer purchasing power decreasing. What I also noticed is the investor behavior or investor sentiment. They're less, investors are less likely to invest as they did like 2 years ago. And we know that investor funds are usually the UA funds of gaming companies, and UA funds in turn are transferred into eCPMs and ad monetization revenues. Hopefully, we will not see a deep recession, but in case it happens, I would expect some decline on that front as well.
Interesting. So we're talking innovation out of adversity, which is the best way to create innovation.
Yep.
And I think we'll dig a bit deeper into innovation and what kind of interesting innovation might come out of recent changes in a bit. I have another kind of related question of what companies, or have you seen any publishers that managed to flourish in this challenging environment, and how have they managed to do so?
Yeah, I'll talk a bit more about what we're doing and how actually, even during the past 6 months, things are looking very good. One for sure is how to leverage cross promo. I think we started once again, like kind of a bit like Ilya said, out of some kind of adversity, you started looking internally for solutions, we started pushing much more cross promo in some tiers where there was practically no fill. We developed some tools in house to evaluate better, like what type of ECPMs we're generating from cross promo, how to even automatically just push cross promo much faster and much more efficient. But also, I think maybe 4 or 5 months ago, we took a step back on the scan situation, so on the ATT situation, and we actually noticed via advertising, via the monetization team, that actually CPMs for opt-in users and opt-out users were actually very different, were almost a double, which in the beginning, I think everybody felt a little bit. We tried to optimize and find ways to optimize the opt-in rate. And then at least I feel from when I talk with our networks, I talk with other partners from the industry, we kind of forgot a little bit about the opt-in rates. At least it's the feeling that I have. And when you do actually look at CPMs and how different they are for opt-in users versus opt-out users, you almost you should put like all the effort on trying to optimize those opt-in rates, either if it's via the gameplay, via different types of push-up notifications, and just by maybe increasing the opt-in by 5-10%, it was really impactful for us because once again, CPMs are the double, and if you are increasing 10% of your audience getting the double of CPMs, it can be a pretty nice impact. So those two were pretty good for us.
Gonçalo just reminded me to look in at opt-in rates. Because
So you were right. People have forgotten about opt-in rate. Yes, we have a conversation.
Even ourselves.
Yeah, but we for the users that have opted in, we've seen the same thing, like double CPM basically.
Yeah. Is that because the ad industry or we as an industry haven't adopted yet to other solutions to use that unauthenticated users and monetize them more accurately? Or because why would there be double? Is like why would that value be so high? There's like the difference between opt-in users and unopted users. Is that because we haven't really invested enough resources in really figuring out how to address them correctly? And I think you have. Yes, I can already see.
I think let's talk about the authenticated users first, authenticated or opted in. Because when we were seeing ATT happening, we realized that there is a way to increase the addressability of the opted-in users as well. And we then launched a product called Unified, which is like an identity management solution for the publishers to basically work with all the universal ID providers. Think like LiveRamp, LiveIntent, ID5, Epsilon, and then TTD UID and whatnot. So versus the publisher reaching out to each one of them individually and having that connection and then enhancing their bitstream with UIDs, InMobi SDK does that powerlifting. And we have seen adoption, and we have some case studies floating out as well, but there has been a significant jump in the CPM as well as fill rate for some of our publishers using that solution. So there is that play that even within the opted-in user, there's more to do. Now then, if you think about the opted-out users, I think you're right. There is a lot of thinking and work going on in the background. Like we ourselves are doing a lot of this work in the background. Like our vision is that we need to make 80% of the audiences available and addressable in our top 25 countries. Mm-hmm. And then with these opt-outs and then Google privacy also coming in, that is never possible if we don't tackle the opted-out users. So we are thinking in that direction. We have some on-device targeting client-side solution build out. Something will get rolled out in Q4. We're also thinking about seller-defined audiences. What more do we need to do around it? It makes sense, but it is at that phase where industry needs to come together, align on one standard, and then act towards it.
I mean, as a company who works in this field, I definitely feel your pain.
Yeah.
And important I call it identity solution without ID, but I think there's much more to do in that field. But thank you.
I mean, and maybe to add, I think on the macro trend side, there are 3 big things that could happen that change monetization for non-opt-in users again, right? The first thing is more brand demand, because brand buyers usually are used to buying more contextual, and this will grow a lot, so this will help. Secondly, Meta of Facebook for a lot of game pubs. I think Miniclip shared before on iOS, it's still relevant. I talked to a lot of game publishers that say it really dropped to almost 0 or maybe 5% of monetization. But Facebook also having a better algorithm for contextual targeting would help a lot. And I mean, and the last big part for Apple they sit in Berlin is once Apple also rolls out a more successful ad network themselves, this will also change the game a lot. So also there, I think in 2 years, the whole picture will look very different. Next to, you can do things on publisher side with your service providers, with like your solutions and stuff. But I think the big parts are missing from the market and not so much from the publisher side.
And to come back to the question around like who's thriving at the moment, I mean, obviously there's the Fall Guys mobile version, which did incredibly well. Obviously that's a big IP now, although it wasn't 2 years ago. And then Survivor.io from Habi, I would look into that and what they're doing. I think a lot of that revenue is ad monetization, but also in that purchase heavy as well. So, and self-plug, Bitcoin miner, we launched that at the start of the bear market of Bitcoin and the start of the decline of the markets. And it's a 5-year-old game, which has suddenly gone up. So,
what have you changed?
Well, we did add a component where players could earn Bitcoin as they play. So that's, it's quite a compelling thing. But yeah, I think that comes back to like the innovation that Ilya touched on. Like, this is another like thing that we were thinking about originally when we made that game 4 years ago. Is I think as a games publisher, it's interesting now to think about your audience that you can monetize. So Bitcoin users, or a keyword that's attributed to a Bitcoin user, the brands would think that's valuable. There's potentially a whale in there somewhere, or a valuable person who, who's made money out of Bitcoin. So we want that type of user. And that's what we've started to see from the CPMs that we generate from showing ads to this audience. I think you mentioned over there in regards to when the advertisers look at apps and a list of apps that they're going to buy, especially brands, they look at the names of the apps. As Bitcoin in the title, there's going to be value in there. That's like a little thing that I think
you will have Crypto.com as like some big of these advertisers buying from you just because of the name, right?
Exactly. So that was one of the things that we thought was true 4.5 years ago, which might have been true, but we couldn't market the game because Bitcoin was a dirty word back then. But it's ringing true now.
That's very, very interesting and very valid. And I think that going back to your contextual signals, it's all a question of how we develop the contextual signals we can offer advertisers and how that becomes more mainstream, more valid, and also rich enough for that to drive meaningful insights for them. So definitely work for us to do as an industry as a whole. Next.
May I add one more? In terms of interesting success stories that I've seen this year in the market was Kitka Games from Finland and Stumble Guys that was just acquired by Scopely. I think the growth that they've shown with this game, which is primarily a result of virality of the game and very wide presence in tier 3 markets. And I think today somebody mentioned, I'm trying to remember, about Brazil and India as overlooked geos. I would also add Indonesia as one of the countries which are booming right now, because these geos, they leapfrogged PC into mobile directly, and almost every household, well, not every, I think every household has at least one mobile phone, and people are very proficient with this technology. They're exploring it, and they're downloading everything that they can. I mean, sorry, not proficient, more like they're in exploration phase. So they're trying out every possible app there is on the store. So it's a good market to look at. And I really liked the story of Stumble Guys. Yeah, that would probably be the biggest success I've seen this year out of nowhere.
That's really impressive. How did they manage to get virality? What was the trigger?
I was present in some different Discord communities just for my own interests, and I've seen that communities are organizing tournaments inside Stumble Guys because you can host like 50 people or I don't know, maybe 40-something people in one room, and that's a good community building mechanism, and a lot of products right now are focused on community building. Yeah. And I think that also helped them with this. Oh. Plus, it's a short session game with a lot of multiplayer social. I'm advertising this game right now.
Hang on. But yeah, I should give you some afterwards. Just get your cut.
I mean, just breaking down the success. I would say that these two factors were main reasons why. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Especially because virality is so hard to predict. So I've seen a lot of discussions regarding how to plan for virality. But there's always a bit of a different component, and you almost need to try multiple and see how it works. You can't really completely predict this is going to go viral. There's always an element of surprise.
And I think I haven't played the game, but I believe they also plugged the hole that Fall Guys hadn't yet filled on mobile, right? I think that was a big accelerator for them, which helped.
Yeah, I mean, Fall Guys was. You mentioned before Fall Guys as one of the successors. Yeah, so I still don't know why Mediatonic didn't release one on mobile, but there was some company that jumped ahead and captured the hype. I guess, yeah.
It happens. If you're like you snooze, you lose, I guess. Next is kind of like one of the questions, or more, this is a feature request. So this is a feature request for the room. So we had this discussion beforehand, and we talked about what the panel really want to happen. And one of the things that came to be is that publishers rely on really unreliable back-channel forms of communication, Slack communities, as was mentioned before, to try to figure out what's really going on in the market. What are the CPMs? Why are drops happening? What's going on there? And the question came to be is like, why are we not seeing any more tools or consolidation or available information? Which is why I call it, this is a feature request for the room. People are looking for this information.
I mean, one example was mentioned before. SafeDK was bought by Apple 11 and they shut it down. I think this is another excellent example for the interest in transparency from the big platforms is not too much, yeah, and they would have the power to share the data. Let's see. Other platforms say they have interest to share more. What this means, we need to see. But I think those players that sit on the most data don't have strong intrinsic interest in sharing that within their business model, which is building a walled garden.
Yeah, I mean, Paul was the one that brought it up, and then immediately I was like, yes. But yeah, just also to let you know what we're talking about. But the main thing is that on the monetization side, especially from the mediations, there is no real information passing to the publishers on what are the trends happening in the industry overall, right? Of course, I'm not going to ask what's happening on this company or on the other company, but sometimes on my side, when I see that there's, for example, a very clear example that happened was beginning of Q3, 1st of July, eCPMs kind of like dropped very quickly for almost all networks. And we were very scared at BoomBit, right? We tried to check our SDKs, our games, try to talk with our ad networks, try to understand what's happening. And only like, I had to contact I had to contact the publishers, some are even here, to then understand that it was happening across the industry. And this is such a simple transparency benchmark tool, let's say, that can help a lot us as ad monetization managers. But there is completely blindness in the industry. Like we really don't know what's happening in terms of trends, in terms of CPMs, impressions per sessions. And of course, you don't have to isolate one company or two. You just need to say, okay, I want to just check hyper-casual US GP. Just tell me what's happening. But yeah, Paul was the engineer.
I think it came down to the amount of man hours is wasted to investigating this. Like when CPMs soften is a popular word in a quarter. Like they map Slack communities, like you said, that just go, is anyone seeing like US decline? And it's hard to aggregate. I think that's probably why it doesn't exist. And likewise, big platforms don't really want it because it indicates things in a positive and negative. But I think it is going to be quite tricky to aggregate that data as well. You need the biggest players to provide it. Ultimately,
we need other MMPs can probably do it. There's a few people that can probably do it. They just need to choose Aurora. You stay, but then you just need to choose to actually do it. That's why I said this is a feature request. If anyone wants to jump on it and to offer a unique selling point to the people on the publishers on the stage, this would be it. But definitely there is a need for more information.
Can we do questions?
Yes, please.
Don't know what's happening with the CPM, but nobody refers to the fact that the publishers are the advertisers as well. So you're supposed to know what's happening. There are many publishers sitting here, and all together you combine a large portion of this demand of a plugin and iron source. At the end, you are the advertisers, and this is there's a lot of conversation about the CPMs and no conversations about the CPIs. Because I expect, well, the inflation that happened several years ago when the CPIs went up and eCPMs went up. So maybe now it's just kind of going back. We're seeing a little bit decrease in the eCPMs, and you can drive the decrease in the CPIs, and then things will go back to normal. Isn't it?
It's not what I heard. Like I talked to some publishers today, and it seems like traffic acquisition did not get easier. So I don't know how it was for you, but for most publishers I talked to, eCPMs rather dropped, anything between 10 and 40%, depending on the country, but user acquisition did not compensate that effect. It's not what I heard. There was not really an explanation for it, but I didn't see it today here in my private survey.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see a decrease in CPIs. However, I think that then companies, publishers, they need to adapt to the drop in CPMs, and then they start decreasing their bids, and ultimately, the industry evens out, but at lower margins, let's say. Because on one side you have the CPMs decreasing, and then you start adjusting to your bids, but at the same time you get less users. So it's kind of like a snowball. But at the same time, I think sometimes we forget that the big players, they have a very importance in the industry on the monetization side, and a lot of those. Just a second, and a lot of those they work even like on quarterly budgets. So then as soon as it hits like the first, and I remember it was the 1st of July. And it was like a Friday. So then it was a 2nd and 3rd, like it was Saturday and Sunday. And then it feels like only then on Tuesday, Wednesday, CPM start decreasing a little bit because there was just like the new marketing budget starting to be online. But clearly the big players, they also have a very, very important part on this CPM flow. My BoomBit, my company, we don't have quarterly budgets, right? So we keep everything the same, but then we kind of feel what the industry.
Love in buying safety K. So they have good margins to buy companies and then decide what to do with them. And my question is, the only thing between the CPM and the CPI is those companies, the Uplovins. And it seems that they're taking the margins, isn't it? So is it time for the industry to squeeze, to press on those margins?
I mean, it's one topic we already we're close now. Maybe I can say something to that. When you read the AppLovin financial report, I believe their CFO is one of the smartest guys on this planet because they're very good in saying everything without saying anything. Their gaming business was at almost zero margin in the last quarter. Their ad business was at 60 to 70% on average, in the high cohorts up to 90%. So what does this mean? There's very few big players that benefit from a lot of creativity from all the publishers there that rather struggle between 0% and maybe 15% EBITDA margin, where they say proudly in their report, we can make 60 to 70%. The problem here is that if you have games that are very heavily dependent on standard ad units, which is interstitial, rewarded video, banners, like I was laughing when a friend from Miniclip said earlier, don't make me remove my interstitials because that's probably 80-90% of the revenues of our sister company Sunday, which is hyper casual. Of course, interstitial is very important and there's nothing you can change about that. But there's few innovation you can drive from the publisher side because you're dependent on these big conglomerates. And I earlier touched base what we try in our group of companies. AdJoe is our ad company. We right now look into in-house mediation, but not only as a mediation platform, but we are kind of in a unique spot where we have access to own demand already because we are one of the biggest players in rewarded advertising. Most of the gaming companies buy from us, so we have demand in place. We have a basic ad tech stack, and we have our own gaming studios where we sell the supply right now through these platforms. And what we try to prove is, internally now, there's nothing we can sell yet, but what we try to prove is that you can run a business where you give 80 or 90% or even more of the revenues to the publisher, but rather charge the mediation part as a software fee. Yeah? Because if you make that happen, the control is fully with the publisher. The publisher can onboard their own ad campaigns. Right now, the big platforms don't have an incentive to allow that because this would put their revenue shares in danger, right? The 60-70%. If your business as an ad platform is software and not revenue share, you don't have any issue with that. The publisher can onboard any ad campaign you want. You can talk here together and say, log into this dashboard, upload your campaign, because that's not your business model anymore. And that's something we are quite thrilled about. What we try in the Sunday use case to make our own demand work, to get eCPMs up by 50-60% to save this revenue share. We will update probably, we love this show, this conference, how this is going in the next shows. But the innovation there needs to come from the AdTech side of the market. For a publisher alone, it's very hard if you don't have an AdTech stack.
Yeah, I would actually plus one with Jonas here, because we realize the importance of having or exploring in-house mediation as well, because basis how the industry is shaping up, and think about how header bidding has evolved and then waterfall is like going down. The next set of evolution in our head is going to be more around taking the mediation in-house and be able to have much more control on the data and much more granularity of the data, and then have that bit of transparency to execute as well on top of that. So that is the core principle on which our platform, mediation platform, Meson, is based out as well, which is we are saying mediation at this point is more like a SaaS play rather than a service play than how it used to be. And if that is the case, that is how it should be treated. Very, very neutral, very, very transparent, very, very scalable as well. And that is how the industry will kind of proceed from here.
Just to, I think there be fair to everyone, this is 50%, right? Having transparent data, know who's charging what, who's buying what, that's 50%. The other 50% you need is on demand. Because if you have a perfectly transparent mediation, but the power of your partners is so big that they still charge 30-60% revenue share, you didn't win a cent.
Yeah.
But you end up paying a software fee to a mediation, and they still, on the exchange level, charge the same revenue share, right? What you need to change is having a provider that gives you their own demand at very low cost, or onboarding your own demand.
That's exactly part of my question here. So, or will be my next question to elaborate on that, because we've talked a lot about unification within the industry, everyone buying everyone, we have consolidation. Is there anything that publishers can do to kind of rebalance the because there is a power shift a bit, right? Publishers used to kind of own this industry, and like we have less players, meaning you can't switch as quickly from one player to another. Is there anything that publishers can do to, I don't know, balance out this power, like this power shift?
I mean, I think, and I'm taking the first step, but you guys know better. I think the one-line answer is don't put all your eggs in one basket, because that's a very high-risk situation publishers can go into if it's like sticking to one platform or one format within that platform that is like generating 80%, 90% of your revenue. You need to keep on keeping a tab of what's happening in the industry and keep on experimenting more. If there's some new innovation coming up, try it up with maybe one of your lesser known apps, see if it's working out or not. And if it does, then that is the solution you should explore and keep for all the portfolio.
Diversifying is key. Okay.
Honestly, I don't have anything else to add to this, because also on the publisher side we are a bit limited. We, of course, diversifying mediations makes total sense. We don't want one monopoly at all. We want to have a lot of opportunity, a lot of hypotheses, and a lot of different players that we can go for. We want to make sure that, once again, the industry is as transparent and as uniform as possible. But that's it. Also on the publisher side, what can we do? We can indeed start some kind of cross promotion across the industry with very democratized, but at the same time we don't have that many. If AppLovin is taking 40% of margins, what can we do? Go away from AppLovin and go to a new mediation? Maybe, but then also they are very important then for us on the user acquisition side, and that's it. The publishers don't have that much power, I think. But of course, trying several mediations, trying a tool that is very democratized. I don't know if this is the word, democrat or whatever. Could be a way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I think there was one company that did SaaS mediation that I knew of, but you couldn't integrate with anything else because they weren't a popular choice for the major companies to work with, and I think there's a question there as to why. I mean, they have a chicken egg problem. If you don't
have supply, you don't have demand. So if you come from a no demand background, just having the mediation as a software piece, you need to convince all the big bidders to bid on your inventory. AppLab and Iron Source and Unity will not do it because you're interested in pushing your own solutions, which makes sense out of business perspective, maybe not so much out of publisher perspective. It's very hard to get to this competitive CPM level that supports a publisher.
Yeah, there was another question there that we might have missed. I don't know if there was still there, but
Good, we're doing a good job here. If anything else, just, I don't know, just throw something at me, I'll notice. So kind of like, it's a related question, but so there are, with new solutions, and if we're looking at more and more solutions that aim to automate as much as possible. And what does that mean if we're looking at bidding solutions that do most of the work for you? And what does it mean for kind of the new role of ad monetizers? What are they doing now? Where's the competitive advantage for a game if everyone is using the same tool?
No, you want to go, Ilya? No.
I can go, yeah. So you mentioned that bidding solutions automate most of the job. Well, most of the ad optimization job of numbers of waterfalls, yes. Integration into games, creative solutions in the games, how to integrate the monetization into economy and game design, this is still a big part of it, and this is not automated. And I think creative teams that find a way how to monetize their users well without breaking the user experience, actually while keeping the user experience as good or maybe even improving it and balancing at the same time their monetization model, this is where the competitive advantage will be. The teams that know how to do it well. Also teams that know how to work with analytics well, that have, and I've seen a couple of examples nowadays in the industry where most of the investments that teams are putting, where most of the investments are going are specifically into analytics and data science teams, because it's still very relevant. You have to know how to work with your metrics in the game and then reiterate the solutions, A/B testing all the way. So what bidding solutions are actually doing is giving teams more time to invest into what I believe is a more important part of monetization of games.
I love it. So game design and data.
Yeah,
sounds like
absolutely.
A perfect job.
I would also add two things. One is like ASO. Like I think if you think of the ad journey, ad monetization on the UA side, of course, like that's part of the flow and a huge part of it. Also the audience you're trying to win, if you're monetizing a certain audience, you want to appeal on the ASO side. So our UA admon guy runs both and ASO as well. He does a lot. And then on the second side, I've forgotten the point.
We can cycle back to you if you need to. Do you want me to
talk a bit about Bitcoin, the Bitcoin game if you
I can come back to Bitcoin.
Bitcoin for free.
Yeah, well, there's that part of it. No, so I've forgotten, so I'll come back to it. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to say is a bit what Ilya said as well. Right now, I mean, the ad monetization team, they do have more time, because bidding is facilitating a lot of things. So we are using that knowledge that we get from the mediation, that we get from the networks, and the ad monetization managers, they are focusing much more on game economy, right? Of course, depends on how big your company is, but normally it's not that usual that, 2 years ago, the ad monetization manager was focusing, on eCPMs per placement, fill rate per placement, actually giving feedback back to the game design team and saying, look, actually this RV that you have here is doing nothing. So change it to something different. So this, I think, giving more time to ad monetization team, lets them be more a part of the game economy. But there's also other things like direct deals. The team will have much more time for direct deals. The automation of the waterfall creation as well to avoid any human mistakes. But that's it. It basically gives more time to the monetization team.
I remembered. Agree. And also, automation always sounds good on paper. Like I think going into relying on advanced bidding from the big partners, it's going to be a one-size-fits-all. That's cool. Tick the box. Now we can get rid of that person. Is a very unhealthy approach. Like we use advanced bidding where we can, but also we still like A/B test. Like, okay, well, one product to fit everyone in the market is never going to be the perfect solution. So it may work for some, but it might not work for all. So we always have that mentality as well of A/B testing off advanced bidding, just to see what the outcomes can look like. Whilst we can, hopefully we will always be able to.
And I mean, Google is just starting bidding. They now just started with the first mediation partners. I think 12 months from now we will talk very differently, because a big issue why you cannot only run bidding is because the biggest demand source for most of the publishers is not supporting bidding. So doing it without a waterfall is not really an option. I would be surprised if, let's say, not in 12 months, but in 24 months from now, we still talk about if you have 3 calls or not, because the whole market will be on bidding 90%. Once Google's bidder is working on the same CPMs they can reach in the waterfall, we will have a different conversation. And people will be happy to focus more on game design and less on putting items on the waterfall.
One hypothesis we have from our side is the role of the ad monetization manager will get much more data extensive down the line, because currently the level of data that is available in day-to-day operations is at a very collated level. But down the line, the demand of getting more granular data and more diverse data will kind of increase, where just don't tell me this ad network won at this CPM, tell me like the whole bid landscape. Who was bidding? Who all were bidding? At what CPM? Why did that person win? Why did that person did not win? And then be able to consume that and then create insights around what needs to happen after this. Do I need to worry about if my portfolio is very much skewed towards like one ad network, and maybe then that ad network is the person providing mediation, or do I need to do something else? So it will get a bit more data extensive with the availability of data.
Make better choices based on data, which is actually, I mean, a question we don't have here, but I'm still going to ask it, because I've been curious and I've been hearing about it for the entire day, so I want to know. There's a lot of talk about segmentation. There's a lot of talk also about getting to know your users, investing in data. We just talked, we're just investing in data teams and machine learning, or investing in more data science. What is the current trends in investing in data? How are publishers increasing, or even AdNet, or even ad solutions? How are we currently investing in data, and what is still missing from that? What can we improve on?
Well,
okay.
We're quite new to the journey of investing in data. We hired our first data person in April. So but we now have machine learning, and we do have a data person as a separate thing. So we've just built our own in-house data backend, having not to rely on the third parties so much. So it's been a focus for us this year to prepare, but we're still very early in the journey. And the thing that always surprises me is how long these things take to set up, cross-check, rely on, be confident with. Source of truth is always the scary thing for us, for me as running the business.
Yeah, I wanted to say something similar. I think on the publisher side, going into these topics, again on the ad monetization part, it's very tough. There's a lot of signals. I think this is more the job of the ad companies, to optimize this from a data perspective. I think on the game publisher side, it's more about what you said earlier about the game design, where to place which ads, how to monetize. And I think there it's very key to find a spot where you put all data in one place, your user acquisition data, your monetization data, your in-game behavior data. So find a tool that does this all. And then you have a good start, and then maybe even a scientist can pull out data there and do smart things with that. But first, having one place and not having this in 5 tools all over the place. This will make optimizing very hard.
So CDP will be entering games next. Well, let's put it as my prediction, and we'll see how well that works. I will try not to ask unexpected questions, so you can reject the question.
Go for it. I mean, the question that we just had?
Give us a second one.
I mean, actually, I would add a little bit to the segmentation part. There are tools in the market that allow you to segment users and find a way how to apply different rules in terms of monetization, in terms of ad frequency. And I think this is a growing trend right now, because we have, well, not we, but in general, the market has less access to data that was used before, which is personal identifiable information. And developers and publishers can now rely more on session level behavioral data and optimize the monetization based on this specific data that was collected within this one session. And then the publishers can segment users into different, of course, groups or cohorts, but there are tools that are doing it for them instead of them. And I think this is a good starting point. There are companies. Okay, so Unity has one product.
There we go.
It's okay. Yeah. Let's get into it.
It's actually it's called remote. It's called remote config, and with it, publishers can use mediation, adjust different rules to different groups of their users. And while it's still in early stage, we're seeing other companies bringing similar solutions. And as we just said, many developers and publishers haven't invested enough into data science teams, and they don't know how to do that job well. And I think these tools are really helping them understand where's the starting point and shows the value of this segmentation. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that there is a change coming, and it's observable with, especially with hybrid monetization models where ads are responsible for close to half of revenues.
Yeah.
That will be an interesting change to see. And it's also related to the next kind of question, which we did talk about, so we did talk about this question. And thinking of how basically, what is, if the economy or ad tech, another solution is kind of shifting toward a more publisher-led approach, especially within data, and kind of the role that SDA, so defining audience, plays into that. As data used to come from the advertiser, then match against an ID, and that will be the true source of data, and now the publisher needs to send the data out. And where do you see that fit, especially within gaming?
I mean, I think there has to be a way to kind of figure this bit out. When we were preparing as well, I was telling this that privacy is fine, it is super crucial, but it should never come at the cost of losing business or revenue, right? So there has to be a counter attack around that gap that is created because privacy is happening. Privacy is again super crucial, no doubt. But what more needs to happen to solve for that? And I was saying we had this vision of making 80% of the inventory we have addressable. It's not impossible without solving something like a seller-defined audience play. We will be investing on top of that, but it will go through its own journey where now, even in this nascent stage, buyers are like, oh, we get it, it's addressable, you're giving me scale, but who really defined this audience and how do I know this is the right audience to even begin with? So that trust will need to come in. Maybe, then the whole industry will kind of come together to form that, but there is no way out is my one-line inference to that question.
Any publishers here? What do you think about having to define your own audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a question for the ad network. So I kind of agree with everything he said. Don't have anything much to add because once again, I really feel that that's one of the things that are really on the ad network side because we're already doing everything we can with the small amount of how do you say the small amount of conversion values that we can to work with all this privacy, of course. I mean, both publishers and ad networks, they felt it a little bit, but we're the ones that were so used to advertise at the user level and to bid at the user level, and changing all of this. It's been kind of impactful for us, but I don't have much more to add, to be honest.
Yeah, same. I mean, the cost of surfacing or finding out that information from your audience, surfacing it, and then automating it and processing it intimidates me a little. Like also the legal ramifications of that globally intimidate me a lot. And the cost of having to pay a third party to do that makes me not really want to look at it, if I'm honest.
That's a very fair answer.
Unless the upside is higher.
Unless it is. And that's crucial.
It's a long conversation for us to have at some point. But that's very valid, and I think that we're actually seeing it across board, meaning it's intimidating, and therefore it's slower to be adopted because it is a big change, and every big change creates. It's harder to change that habit, like any good addiction, it's hard to break. And within that, things that are maybe easier to change or adopt, things that are more of a change of, like we've done it in the past, and we're kind of going similar. It's kind of within the world of different ad formats, of different options, or adding those incremental revenues. I think there's, again, many conversations, many sessions on that topic. Is there a particular ad format that you're particularly interested to test, or you're testing right now, or you think this will be the next big thing?
So I like the trend of the new formats that are coming and have been around. Like there's a lot of them. Well, there's people here in this room who have them. Like obviously the in-play ads, which are like set into the scene. I used to work for a company that did that, and I think that's interesting. Obviously the audio ads as well. What I like about these ads is they kind of meet user expectations. The ad industry has gone a route down that I'm personally not super happy about in regards to click attribution, things, being forced upon a consumer. Like we all know probably what I'm referring to, which is you watch a rewarded video ad, you close it, and you're in the app store. Like
you can't ever close it.
Or you can't ever close it. Or you play a playable and you're in the app store. Which when I was at Ad Colony, Apple was livid about if it ever happened. Not that Ad Colony did it. So I like the new emergence that are coming out of these two, where it's like it's kind of expected behavior. It's back on the consumer side, which is good. And as a game developer who cares about the players, like those were the things that I'd look to test.
Yeah, I mean, today we heard, once again, a lot of talks about audio ads, about in-game ads. But still, I think, at least for the next 12 months, I still think that basically why are these ads so everybody's talking about them is because I think publishers are looking for something new, right? It's been too long that it's just interstitial, reward, and banner. So there is, the industry, it is looking for something new. We want to add something to the ad stack. But I still think, at least, I mean, it's just my prediction, but I still think for the next 12 months even, the next big thing will be something around interstitials and rewarded. So something like rewarded interstitials, which is basically meeting in the middle, or like splash ads. So it's still going to be around these static slash videos, because, I don't know, I just feel like that's it, the users are not used to the audio ads or to the in-game ads yet. And maybe the traffic is not there to just compensate a very basic, reward interstitial. You just add a reward interstitial, there's already the inventory, the prices are there, the market is there, the users are there ready to interact. So it's going to be tricky for the audio and in-game companies to match this new ad type that is just basically the same thing, but just in the middle. So
I think it's complementary there as well. Like it's not a choice either or. Like
I'll do both.
You could have both, and you could give the user choice, and obviously aligning rewards with those depending on how they engage. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if there's like more options in that sense going forward.
I would still think about like half, let's say 50% of the market for me is standard ad units, or even more. And as we discussed before, this is probably dependent on either market trends, more brand budgets going there, or innovation on the ad tech side. There's not, you can add to a hyper casual game, you can add in-game ads and audio ad. I didn't hear cases where this made more of a difference than 10 or 15%. So because it's still young, the demand might increase, so this might change. If you have an app that's more coming from IAP with a very strong and valuable currency, I think, especially right now with dropping eCPMs, dropping reach in the market, this space is highly underestimated and highly undervalued still. Now I get my 1 minute of sponsorship airtime, but maybe just quick summary what we do with Playtime. It's an ad unit that's looking very different to Offerwall, but it's not. A user can earn free coins by spending minutes in other games, which is nice for the user because they're earning for every minute, not only for achieving events. And we show like a small toast notification every some minutes to the user that reminds the user to come back to the publisher's game. So it's also increasing retention. We had strong growth the last years rather from like cashback apps, loyalty apps, rewarded apps, maybe a bit in your space, Bitcoin earning apps, but now we see more and more interest coming from free-to-play publishers that sitting on very valuable currencies but struggle to grow that with their IAP business or with interstitials, because you need to show like 1,000 interstitials to a user to make like 10 or 15 bucks, right? If you just make one user install one game, you make $4 or $5. So next to playtime, we also learned about the e-commerce part. I found this very interesting earlier, how you can make more value out of non-paying users using your currency to make them buy something online. So I think publishers that sit on this asset of an in-app currency should think about solutions like the e-commerce part, like playtime and the other things, because it's very, very valuable. You can drive incredible conversion rates with the power of your currency.
I think from my side, there are like two ways to look at it. One is the existing real estate. So think like, Banner and rewarded video. And we have done a lot of work on Banner, and then we are also investing a lot of our time, energy, and engineering resource on ramping up the other formats as well, like rewarded video. For those of you who have not seen, we have this awesome T-shirt which says InMobi Beyond Banner, and that is what the whole story is all about. But that is the whole existing real estate. And then there's going to be new real estate, and that can also be broken down into two bits. One is within the app, and let's call it new formats. So everything we are hearing around, in-game, in-app audio, and all these new formats which will get generated within the app itself and create new monetization opportunities and not cannibalizing on the existing formats. And that's cool. The second part to there is what we are calling or conceptualizing more like as new surface, which is creating new real estate outside the app environment itself. We have this platform called Glance, and then Glance is like a lock screen kind of an environment. And then you as an app developer can actually plug your game into that lock screen itself. User experience, privacy, super, super crucial, no negotiation around that. But within that constraint, these will be these new surfaces outside of the app where you can plug in your app and then monetize on top of that. So we are excited about that, early stages, but you will be hearing more and more about that down the line.
Ilya, anything to add?
It's more of a, not prediction, but
predictions are
more
very,
speculation,
yes.
or I would be happy if this would be the case, because it's a really interesting way of monetizing and actually attracting users. We see how e-commerce is usually advertising a specific product and targeting, for example, Amazon, Wish, all these stores. They're targeting their user base with a specific product to buy. But this is not something games are doing. Like, I've never seen a game actually advertising a specific IAP in a specific game based on gamer behavior in another game where they acquired the user from. And I think this can be one of the interesting direction of thought that developers or platforms, including ours, I guess, can look into. I guess there are some problems here. I don't know. Maybe it's too difficult to deep link to a specific product in another game's IAP store. But that would be a very interesting way of developing the ad monetization and targeting of users into a more I don't know, not targeted. Oh, I lost the word. But it's a more innovative way. That's it.
I mean, it might be linked to things of innovative use of NFTs. NFTs is things that can be moved through games, because if you can move an item through games, then you actually need to consume that item and show it in a new game. So you might see it in new ways of how we utilize blockchain within the industry and within gaming, where NFTs might not become will have a more interesting use case, or an interesting use case of how they can be utilized. And there the deep link will be naturally created, because they need to be maintained and be used across games. So there could be something there. Definitely interesting and to be on the lookout. I'm just curious to see if we can do better promotions of in-app, like how we can innovate the in-app purchase economy within gaming, and how we can promote different items differently, besides just giving loads of discounts and hope that eventually people will convert and become paying users. But that is a whole different topic. Within ad monetization, is there anything else you think would change? Different shift, different way of doing ad monetization, that you would predict, because of the changes, we will do things differently now? Or models?
Yeah, so on the ad monetization itself, or the ad monetization as a team? I mean, So it depends. I think we already talked about ad monetization as a team. We already talked as well of like the new ad types, the new possible ad types. That's basically it's what's going to be probably the next 12 months. You know, the user acquisition, the monetization managers, they'll need to adapt on how to actually read the data, take more time to read data, and that's basically it. I think we already talked a little bit.
Maybe one of the things that we're looking at is like loyalty scheme with ads. Like we're not the first to think of this or do this. We tried a while ago, but we're trying again. Is like, you know, stacking rewards from ad stacking, and that's not just to like binge through ads, but like actually offer like rewarded video, and then once 5 have been viewed, here's a boost, or once 10 have been watched, like here's an extra. You've unlocked a discount for something, or I've seen some cool games do things around. You actually offer a one-time in-app purchase once you stack the ads. So you've invested to get that discount, you're more likely to convert. I think things like that are quite creative. Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at.
That's very interesting. I would be curious to see how it works. Keep us posted. And actually, this is a question for you. Is pay to earn the future of ad monetization?
That's an
Play to earn, yeah. I mean,
that's an interesting question. I think I kind of touched on this earlier, but what we've seen different to any of our other games, and we've had around 10 million downloads, so it's not crazy volumes, but we have seen that this audience for this play and earn, so not play to earn, I have a big crusade about that, play and earn is drives different CPMs. Like, to drop some numbers on it, we fill 5% at $450 CPM in the US. Like, I know. It's so like we've never had that before, and that's obviously the advertiser types that we're pulling in because of the audience types that we've got, and we haven't had to necessarily do any granular audience data passing for that. It's just clever keywords, I guess, or or knowing what it is. So that makes it more interesting for us, and also the play and earn audience, they're getting something back, so they're more likely to give you something. And that is where we've seen the biggest, like, that kind of opened our eyes for the last game. Conversion rates are higher because they're getting something back. And it feels like a more healthy kind of interaction in that sense.
No, it's huge, and it's now proven over some years. It's not new, right? It's just working. Rewarded video is like rewarding the video, and when it started, I think Unity, Vanguard, Ad Colony all started at the same time around 10 years ago. And it was not proven that this is working, but the reward part brought the scale to the format, and still you didn't reward the install afterwards or something, right? And still this then drove quality. So you used this reward mechanism to drive scale, and then you still had quality conversions. And what we do, rewarding minutes, it's also proven it's huge. It's working for almost all game categories, maybe except hardcore games, but hyper-casual, casual, social casino, mid-core. If you reward minutes for playing, the user comes to the points in the game where they start spending money, and it's working as a user acquisition channel, and your game itself has the mechanic in the game to earn the Bitcoin by playing. I think it's going to stay, and it's real playing, because users combine this I earn something, which is the meta, with the fun of the game. There were business models 20 years ago for ad-based, telephone calls, right? When you do telephone calls, listen to advertising, and you get paid for that. This was not working because people were not listening. But in the whole in-game and mobile context, it's just proven. If you look at ROAS data, user feedback, it's a very strong kind of economy.
Very valid. So we're almost out of time. John is literally signaling me from across the room. So last, almost, one keyword for the next 12 months. What will be the word? I'm getting volunteers, so I'll nominate you if you don't volunteer.
For us, play and earn.
Play and earn.
Automation.
I'll get back to you.
There's so many.
Bidding only.
Fantastic.
Alerting.
We're out of
Surface.
It's fantastic. I don't know how am I doing? We're kidding me? Okay. So if you have any questions, I'm sorry, but too bad.
We're here. You can ask us questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it? Or do I? Does anyone?
Thank you.
Thank you.